What's up, everybody? So today I wanted to talk about one of my favorite photographers, Ernst Haas. I don't know if it's Ernst or Ernest. Maybe I should have probably looked that up before this video. So for the context of this video, I am going to be sticking to his time here in New York because this is where he really pushed his color photography and he actually became the pioneer in color film photography. I'm also a New Yorker, so I am a little biased, but in reality, it's more because this is where his experimentation really pushed the limits during this time period that he lived in. What really pushed me to kind of dig deeper into Ernst Haas is actually his book here. It's New York in Color from 1952 to 62. Now, he wasn't in New York this whole entire time. He was traveling, he was experimenting more with color photography. He experimented a lot with nature. But me being a street photographer and also being very emphasizing on color and things like that, this book really drew me to his photography and to him. I actually didn't know who he was until I picked up this book, but as I went through it, I really loved it and it was really up my alley, and this is where I wanted to push my photography towards. And so I picked it up as a source of inspiration for me to experiment myself. To give some backstory about who Ernst Haas is, he is Austrian, born in Vienna, Austria, and throughout his career he worked for Life and for Magnum Photo Group. Working for these places really gave him a lot of inspiration and gave him the ability to work in different places throughout all of Europe, such as Greece and also in his home country, Austria, and definitely in other places. With time, Life magazine actually had him go to the United States to do some documentary style photos here. Now, of course, it started in New York, but he actually traveled throughout the entire United States. But for some reason, New York really drew him in because New York was crazy, and it still is crazy, but the lifestyle here is very different from basically anywhere else in the world that you'll see. Being a New Yorker, I can definitely say that, New York is crazy, and we're always moving, we're always very fast paced, we always got to get somewhere, and I got to get my bacon, egg, and cheese. But during that time, it was of course less people, but still the same type of craziness of very fast pace, a lot of moving, a lot of different colors, everything is really bright, everything is lit up all the time. And so I think Ernst Haas was actually drawn into the madness of New York during his time here. The point of these videos and the point I want to make here is what can we actually apply from Ernst Haas back then to today? I think Ernst Haas' major thing was stop for a second and kind of look around and see what's going on. New York being such a crazy place, everything is always moving. And so it's kind of hard to stop and just see your surroundings for a quick second, but he was able to do that throughout the madness of it. And now the second question comes up is well, how do I capture this lifestyle? How do I kind of capture this moment in time on my camera? Which brings me to my point, shutter speed. So he really had a knack for slowing down the shutter speed just enough where you can see what's going on, but the image is still kind of blurred. And so he captured the movement of cars going across the screen, people crossing the street. I know this is not in New York, but he also had this really great picture of a bullfighter, and it's kind of crazy to see that you can capture so much movement in a still image. Now, with slowing down the shutter speed, I'm not talking about 30 seconds, 1 second, 2 seconds, or a long exposure. You're only slowing down the shutter speed to about 1/10 or even 1/20th of a second. And that just helps to keep everything still in focus and hold your camera still, but capture the person moving or the car moving across the image. And it's really cool, and I do this now, and I really got inspired by him because I'm now slowing down the shutter speed. I'm trying to capture those movements in my images and kind of still mixing it with my own personal style. Now, another thing that we can learn from Ernst Haas is color. Of course, he is one of the main pioneers in color film photography, and he really did want to capture New York in color. He did a lot of black and white prior to coming to New York, but New York really had a lot of colors back then that inspired him to really push more into film photography with color film. Now, it's kind of crazy to think about it, his time versus now. I feel like New York has lost a lot of its color. It is definitely a lot more gray, it's a lot more neutral colors. And when you see his photos back then, you see a lot of yellows, you see a lot of colors. And I'm not talking about like Times Square neon lights. I'm talking about just walking down the street. A lot of people now are wearing more neutral colored clothing. I don't really see too many bright colors. And back then it's, you know, it was a little bit more common. And so him capturing the lifestyle of New York with color film photography really emphasized how colorful it was back then. Now me, I'm a huge color enthusiast. I love color. And when I see his pictures, I can tell that his colors help to tell a lot of the story. With black and white, I think black and white shows a different kind of story compared to color would. And then that's probably why he picked it. I think he wanted something a little bit more, I would say maybe upbeat, a little bit more different, a little bit more crazy, and it kind of captures the moment a little bit better, where black and white, I think, is a little bit more serious. And also just not, you know, you guys are gonna hate me for this, but it's just not as fun when it comes down to perceiving a picture. You kind of like take out a little bit of the fun when you're in black and white versus when you're in color. You kind of add that fun in. And then depending on the saturation, you can show kind of a little bit more level of that fun. Black and white can still be fun. I just think when it comes down to these kind of pictures, color kind of takes it. Sorry guys. Coming back basically to that first point and to round it off, just live in that moment. You know, it's like we're always caught up in taking photos. I definitely am. And I think we can stop for a moment and kind of just see the world around us and kind of absorb it and kind of just like take a deep breath and see what can we take out of this. And so I think that is something Ernst Haas definitely did during his time here. And that is something that we can see in the photos. And I think that's what gave him the ideas for different perspectives or slowing down that shutter speed and kind of capturing how he saw New York during that time. If you guys enjoyed this video, hit that like button down below. Leave a comment about who the next photographer I should talk about should be. I'm definitely open. I think I might do Robert Frost, maybe even Alfred Hitchcock. If you guys have any ideas, definitely leave the comment down below. Don't forget to hit subscribe for the channel. I'll see you guys on the next one. Thank you for watching.